Good evening. You're now with me, Lorenzo Isaac, for TVS Nightline. We begin with this story. The Minister of Women, Family and Community Development, Dato Sri Nancy Shukri, says Sarawak's flood preparedness remains on full alert with forward bases activated in high-risk areas. She says these smaller strategic bases allow aid to reach remote communities faster, especially those far from main supply centres.
Ya, kita sudah sentiasa bersedia. And then especially bila ada yang dinamakan tempat yang pangkalan hadapan. Ya. Pangkalan hadapan is a small depot, actually mini depot. We make sure that tempat yang because pangkalan hadapan ni biasanya di tempat yang lebih kecil, di mana mungkin bekalan tu jauh. Jadi kita akan sentiasa ada. We refill. Jadi dari segi bantuan tidak ada masalah, insyaAllah.
On aid registration, Nancy says an online system has now been introduced, making it faster and easier for victims to apply for assistance.
Bantuan online tu untuk memudahkan mereka yang nak mendaftar. Tapi sekiranya kalau tidak ada tempat, tak ada internet, tak ada apa, pejabat daerah akan sentiasa membantu. So ini sudah menjadi kebiasaan yang kita lakukan untuk kawasan banjir.
She adds that this approach ensures communities stay prepared and no one is left behind when aid is distributed. At temporary relief centers, 155 counsellors and officers have been deployed to provide psychological support, including activities to support children. For the Social Welfare Department alone, more than 5,700 volunteers have been mobilized, with 976 psychological support personnel on standby at relief centers. The coordinated operation also involves the Royal Malaysia Police, the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission, the Malaysian Fire and Rescue Department, the Education Ministry, the Health Ministry, local authorities, as well as community volunteers.
Deputy Prime Minister Dato Sri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi calls on the people to continue to pray for the well-being of the people in Sabah who are currently facing the tests of flooding as Muslims celebrate Ramadan. Zahid says all federal and state government agencies have been mobilized to ensure that evacuation, rescue and aid distribution operations are carried out quickly, systematically and effectively.
In a Facebook post today, he said the flood situation has affected the homes, safety and daily lives of the people in the state. He's also reminding victims in affected areas to be vigilant and obey the instructions of the authorities. The number of flood victims in Sabah increased to nearly 3,700 people from 1,600 families as of 8 a.m. this morning, compared to 406 people from 124 families yesterday evening. The Sabah State Disaster Management Secretariat in a statement announced that 18 temporary relief centers are now operating in the 3 affected districts, namely Kota Marudu, Pitas and Paitan. A total of 47 villages were also affected, namely 30 in Pitas, 12 in Kota Marudu and 5 in Paitan, after floods hit the 3 districts since 6 a.m. yesterday following continuous rain over the past few days. The Malaysian Meteorological Department predicted that several areas in the interior of Sabah are expected to experience rain in the morning, while thunderstorms are likely to occur in the afternoon and evening.
The Health Ministry reports 596 new tuberculosis cases nationwide during the 6th epidemiological week of 2026. The latest figures bring the cumulative total to over 3,160 cases so far this year. Sabah remains the highest caseload region, followed by Selangor and Sarawak. Data released today shows Sabah recording the highest concentration nationwide with 755 cases. Selangor follows with 596 cases, while Sarawak accounts for 332 total infections. Johor reports 280 cases, and the Federal Territories of Kuala Lumpur and Putrajaya round out the top 5 with 244. Health officials note that increased social gatherings and prolonged exposure in enclosed spaces contribute to transmission risks. The ministry clarifies that while holiday activities increase interaction, transmission depends on ventilation and the overall health of individuals. The public is advised to maintain proper hygiene and wear masks in crowded areas. Medical experts urge individuals to seek immediate screening if they experience a persistent cough lasting more than 2 weeks. Search and rescue operations entered a second day in Kuching as teams attempt to locate a 16-year-old boy swept away by strong river currents. SAR Doc Bella joined the effort today as fire and rescue personnel expand shoreline sweeps. Search teams are utilizing boat patrols and surface searches within a 5-kilometer radius downstream. Dive teams are on standby as dangerously high current speeds prevent underwater recovery attempts. The search began after 16-year-old Fahriel Zakwan Hasbullah was reported missing at 4:32 p.m. on Friday. When witnesses say the teen was playing near the riverbank at Kampong Kolong, Sungai Tengah when he slipped and was carried away by the currents. Petrajaya Fire Station personnel resumed the mission at first light today following an overnight suspension. Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission MACC Chief Commissioner Tan Sri Azam Baki has filed a defamation lawsuit against Bloomberg's LP over a recent article concerning his private investments. The suit filed in Kuala Lumpur High Court names New York-based Bloomberg LP and its Malaysian subsidiary as defendants following an article published on February 10. Azam is seeking 100 million ringgit in general damages along with aggravated and exemplary damages for statements he claims are false and malicious. The Chief Commissioner also requested an injunction to halt any republication of the allegations and demand a public apology across multiple media platforms. The dispute centers on an article titled "Malaysian Anti-Graft Chief Returns to Stocks After Outcry." Azam argues the piece misleadingly suggests he owns 17.7 million shares in Velocity Capital partner Berhad and that he had failed to declare his assets publicly. The plaintiff contends the defendants acted with reckless disregard for the truth by ignoring detailed explanations provided before the article went to print. Azam maintains that all share acquisitions are fully declared through official government channels and comply with national regulation for public officials. Legal representatives for Azam Baki assert the publication breaches the principle of responsible journalism and causes severe reputational damage. The court has yet to schedule a date for the preliminary hearing. U.S. President Donald Trump on Friday imposed on an additional 10% tariff on imports into the United States after the Supreme Court struck down many of his sweeping and often arbitrary duties. Trump signed the tariff order in the Oval Office, saying on social media it was effective almost immediately after spending the past year imposing various rates to cajole and punish countries, both friend and foe.
Today, I will sign an order to impose a 10% global tariff under Section 122 over and above our normal tariffs already being charged.
The new duty is slated to take effect on February 24th for 150 days, with exemptions remaining for sectors that are under separate probes, including pharma and goods entering the U.S. under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement. U.S. trading partners that reached tariff deals with Trump's administration will now also face a 10% duty, despite higher levels they may have agreed on previously. But a White House official says the Trump administration would seek ways to implement more appropriate or pre-negotiated tariff rates down the line. Earlier on Friday, the conservative majority High Court ruled 6-3 that a 1977 law Trump has relied on to slap sudden rates on individual countries, upending global trade, does not authorize the president to impose tariffs. The Trump administration in court arguments said companies would receive refunds if the tariffs were deemed unlawful. But the ruling did not address the issue. Trump said he expected years of litigation on whether to provide refunds.
We've taken in hundreds of billions of dollars, not millions, hundreds of billions of dollars. And so I said, well, what happens to all the money that we took in? It wasn't discussed. Wouldn't you think they would have put one sentence in there saying that keep the money or don't keep the money, right? I guess it has to get litigated for the next 2 years.
What you're saying is, are you saying that you don't plan to honor refunds for companies that file for them?
I just told you the answer, right? I told you the answer. It's not discussed. We'll end up being in court for the next 5 years.
The University of Pennsylvania projected that the court decision on tariffs would generate up to $175 billion in refunds.
Meanwhile, the Malaysian Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry says it is seeking clarity from Washington following President Donald Trump's latest tariff announcement. Its Minister, Datuk Seri Johari Abdul Ghani, says that Putrajaya is monitoring the legal shift in the context of the agreement on reciprocal trade. Despite the court ruling, the U.S. administration is signaling the use of alternative legal channels to implement the new 10% tax. Malaysia is currently studying the potential impact on domestic exporters and the broader business environment. The minister is reaffirming Malaysia's position on rules-based trade while pushing for market diversification to protect the economy. The U.S. remains the critical trading partner, with total trade reaching 376 billion ringgit in 2025. Malaysian exports account for 233 billion ringgit of that total, making the U.S. a vital market for the nation's growth. Lebanon said Israeli strikes on the country's east and south killed 12 people on Friday. A statement from Hezbollah in the eastern Bekaa Valley said a commander from the group had been killed in the raids there.
Lebanon's health ministry said Israeli enemy strikes on several locations in the Bekaa Valley killed 10 people and wounded 24, adding that 3 children were among the wounded. The raids came hours after an Israeli strike on the country's largest Palestinian refugee camp killed 2 people. The Israeli army said in a statement that its forces struck a Hamas command center from which terrorists operated in the Ain al-Helweh area. Hamas in a statement condemned the attack, which it said led to civilian casualties. It rejected Israel's allegations as flimsy pretexts, saying the targeted building belongs to the Joint Security Force charged with maintaining security and stability in the camp. Israel has kept up regular strikes on Lebanon despite a November 2024 ceasefire that sought to halt more than a year of hostilities with Hezbollah. In October 2023, Hezbollah began launching rockets at Israel in support of Hamas at the outset of the Gaza genocide, triggering hostilities that culminated in 2 months of all-out war between Israel and the Iran-backed Lebanese militant group. Lebanon's government last year committed to disarming Hezbollah, and the army said last month that it had completed the first phase of the plan, covering the area near the Israeli border. Israel, which accuses Hezbollah of rearming, has criticized the army's progress as insufficient.
Get all the updates you need all in one app. TVS Inspire brings you live updates on events, news and programs. Available now on the Apple App Store and Google Play Store. TVS Inspire will on your screen anytime, anywhere. Those were the updates on TVS Nightline. I'm Lorenzo Isaac. Thank you for watching and have a good night.